Kindred UMC live show features adults discussing adult topics, occasionally with adult language. It may not be suitable for young viewers. Please use discretion before watching. Hello all, welcome once again to the pre-recorded Kindred UMC live show. My name is Chris Hayden. I'm the pastor at Kindred UMC. This is another thing I didn't think about.
And I'm Preston, and I'm number 2 now.
Hi, I'm Courtney. I'm the director of community engagement at Kindred UMC. This is weird. I don't like this.
So we changed things around because the audio, because the audio we've been using for the past couple of weeks has been kind of roomy, I would say, a little reverby. So we've moved it here, and now we've changed this up. You know what? Let's do it. Let's do a test run. Switch back. Let's switch back. Let's do a test run. And if this is just intolerable, then we'll do something else. But we'll do it this way.
This feels better.
Wait, go back, because that way. Yeah, there you go. I still want to have a straight line to the.
Oh.
We've never had a straight line, by the way.
Well, I'm always doing this.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we are in our final week of Advent before we get to Christmas Eve, and that is the Love Week. The Love Week.
Which is a purple candle, not the pink one. Which
I know it's
fix it.
Yeah. We're gonna do a Christmas Eve service on Christmas Eve, which we will stream through YouTube and also have a live audience here at my house on Christmas Eve. If you would like to be invited, all you have to do is email kindredumc@gmail.com or leave a comment below, and I'll be happy to extend an invitation. But it's at my house, so I don't want to just give out my address. So we're talking about love. What's your first impression of the word love?
Love.
Sex stuff?
No, that wasn't my first
right.
impression.
I was
Are
trying
you
to
asking our first impressions, like when we first found out the word LOVE?
Well, yeah, I'm kind of talking about.
Or like
so
today?
I'll tip my hand a little bit. My main thing is, love is a very wide word. So I'm curious, when you hear when somebody just says love, apropos of nothing, with no context whatsoever, what comes to mind?
I was just going to say relationships in general, not romantic relationships for me. I mean, I do love my husband, but for me, when I think of that word, immediately I think of all of my friends and my family. And like you said, it's a very wide word. So just the people I care about, I guess.
Okay.
I think of it as a net.
A net?
A net.
It's for everybody.
Like a trap?
Yeah. If you it's an easy net to get caught in. So if you're not in it, that's on you.
Just watch out. Watch out for love. That's a good Fleetwood Mac song, Looking Out for Love. So I similarly, I have been working on, I have some really good friends of mine who are very quick to say I love you. And I've never been a person who's very quick to say I love you unless I really am into someone. And I actually don't like that. I don't think that's I actually admire and like people who are, I would rather err on the side of loving too hard. And so one of the things that I've been practicing is I've been practicing saying I love you to people I love. If I get the sense that they're into that, it's not a thing I just openly say, but if I have a friend of mine, in fact, he's been on podcast, and in fact you will see him. He'll be on the live show too. Jeremy. Jeremy's very Jeremy's a very close friend of mine who I actually do love, but he was very quick to say I love you before I was, and now it's very easy. Now, because I obviously love Jeremy. I love his wife Desiree, who's also going to be I really love them. But early on, I had and I'm trying to get myself into more of the mode of I want to say I love you quick. I want to be quick. I'd rather risk saying I love.
So are you beating around the bush with us here? Is that what's happening?
Do you want me to say I love you? Because I do.
Ready.
I love you both.
I'm not ready.
I love you both.
I love you too.
I do. I love you both.
And I love you sometimes.
I really do love you both.
I'm ready for the love y'all. That's the...
I love y'all.
Love y'all.
Love ya.
See you later. Love y'all.
The YA.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about love and why I think that is a little scary for most people. And if you're one of those exceptions, then by all means, lead us, because we need people like you.
By all means,
but
love it out.
Yeah, but I think most people kind of, at least in America, have kind of a difficult time kind of coping with their feelings about love and about the word love. So we're going to look at, this is a classic. This is a good oldie classic text. It's John 3:16, and I always add in 17 because it matters. So this is John 3:16 and 17. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so that everyone who believes in him may not perish but have eternal life. Indeed, God did not send the Son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. All right, here's some background. So John, the Gospel of John, which is the last one written. It's written like a century after Jesus and resurrects and all of the events of the resurrection and ascension. And so John starts his gospel very deliberately with language that harkens back to Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, there was light. There was darkness. God said, "Let there be light." And John equates the Christ to a light. And the Word was God, and the Word was with God. Like, there's all this language that is very deliberately kind of hearkening back to that. And if you're a first century Jew reading the Gospel of John, you're going to this language is intentional. It's going to trigger these kind of he's talking about Genesis. He's talking about Genesis chapter 2. There are two trees in the Garden of Eden. The tree of eternal life, which is some of the language that we just read. Whoever believes in him will have eternal life, will not perish but have eternal life. And there's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is essentially a judgment. The knowledge of good and evil is about judgment and condemnation. I want the power to judge and condemn, and that's why when Adam and Eve eat from that tree, it's bad, and when they eat from the other tree, it's good. That's literally the language in John 3:17. I didn't come to condemn. I came to give eternal life, the tree of eternal life, not to condemn, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So these are all this is all going to play a role in as a first century Jews reading this, we're reading not literally, but literarily, context matters. Okay. And all of this is to encapsulate the idea of God's love. God's love is about restoring the thing that we lost. The tree of good and evil versus the tree of eternal life. The tree of self-sustaining, I can do it on my own, and I have the power to judge and know what's right and wrong, versus the tree that actually sustains and frees you, the tree of life. The thing that kind of separates us and stops us from that is, heavy word, lots of connotation, original sin. This idea of original sin. So that, I think, gets in the way of a lot of stuff, that phrase, for a lot of people, because it's been misused and been used abusively. And so let me unpack it just a little bit. And I want to use this one illustration to talk about sin, okay? To take some of the piss out of it, basically. Okay, so when I was in high school, my high school reunion's coming up, by the way, so I've been thinking about high school a lot. When I was in high school, I was in theater, and a good friend of mine, David, his dad had a Porsche. And every once in a while, his dad would let him take the Porsche out. And we were at a cast party or something, some big event. Maybe it was homecoming. I can't remember. We were at an event. And he was like, "Hey, you wanna go for a ride in the Porsche?" I was like, "Yes, I do." So we got in the Porsche, and he's going through the neighborhood pretty fast because it's a Porsche, and he's trying to show off a little bit. And I'm starting to get very scared because it's this is too fast for safety. But the neighborhoods are all curvy, and so he can't really open up. So then he gets on the freeway, and he gets the car up to over 100 miles an hour. And I don't even have a license at this point. I don't even drive car. And so I'm white knuckling it, terrified, not having a good time, fearing for my life. And as we get off the freeway, He is, like how there's the light at the exit, and the light's red, and he's not slowing down, and it becomes clear to me that he's going to run the red light because it's late at night and whatever. And thank God we made it through the red light. Nothing happened or anything like that. But when I got out of the car, I was pretty damn sure that I was never going to get in the car with David ever again. Like, I was like, that was dangerous. David is a nice guy. Like, he was a nice guy. He was, I won't tell too many details. I don't, because whatever. But like, he is a friend of mine. And I would, if I saw him, I'd be like, yeah, I love David. But David has the potential for very serious danger. Sin, and acknowledging the idea of original sin, is the acknowledgement that all of us have within us the potential for very serious danger. None of us are exempt from the potential to cause very serious harm. Imagine if somebody went through that light and we collided. Imagine if he had lost control on the freeway. It would have been horrific. And that was him just messing around and being like, and there's a little lie we tell ourselves that none of us have that in us. And the truth is that all of us have within us this potential for very serious danger. So let me just pause there. How do you react to that? How does that make you feel? Does that bring up anything for you?
I've been noodling around with linking back to the tree of knowledge thing as judgment giving. Like losing your childhood naivety.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's very connective tissue though for me, for whatever reason.
And that even harkens back to some of the stuff that Jesus says about if you want to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must become like one of these, and he's literally talking about children. Like, but you were saying, like, do you remember when you lost? You said something like when you lost, and right when you said that, I'm like, oh, I don't like that. When you finally got yelled at, you finally got caught, you finally got, oh, I know you're bad now. So now I think this of you. It's being told to That's
you.
interesting language for you.
Sure. Yeah. But
I don't know that we have the time to get into all of that right now, but we should definitely
yeah.
talk later.
Whatever.
I think that's interesting language.
Whatever is different for you but when you're feeling judged finally, because as a kid you kind of like
getting caught, but not in like I got caught doing bad, but in a way that like I see the darkness within you.
Yeah, around 8 or 9, where it's like I have to treat you like an adult now.
Yeah,
and all of that you got like broken. It's like broken. I don't know, something's lost. You said something was lost, and right there it kind of snapped. Ooh, gross. So like the driving in the car thing, like I've never even touched the steering wheel, let alone driven a car, whatever. Your friend goes 100, like one of your first experiences.
It was 117 miles an hour.
It's like
I remember the number.
The car virginity.
I remember the number.
Yeah.
Like that's how scared I was.
Yeah.
Like I was looking and I'd like to get out of the car now, please. Yeah. But and also I would say I think if I had actually said that to David, he would have definitely respected it. But I wanted to be cool and what like so there's also some cooperation in there for me on my part, being like, I can't say what I really feel right now.
Yeah.
Like that's another kind of piece of it. Like that's another way that I can do harm by not speaking my mind when I see something wrong.
So what I'm trying to loop around and say is when you are told finally that you're broken or whatever you'd like to call it.
Maybe not directly, but
not directly, but someone's told you.
You get the sense that everyone sees it.
Yeah, you're
like
no
someone
longer...
else. You and I both know that I am not the good boy. Yeah.
So you fooled us long enough. Type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, I've been in the last month or so really starting to observe my defensiveness. Like I know that I have the potential to get very defensive, particularly when I feel similarly I don't want to get caught, I don't want to get in trouble. Social sixes, if you're into the Enneagram, tend to live.
If you're not, check out Kindred Spirits Enneagram podcast. We'll teach you all about it.
I was gonna say check out of this video.
So they tend to live by they tend to love rules and structure, because if they can find comfort in the routine of rules and structure, then they won't be left blamed or exposed if something does go wrong. And I resonate very deeply with that. And so I like have noticed it'll be like even very, very, very small things. And I'm very quick to defend myself and make sure that, like there, I don't know if that makes any sense. It's not even, but I was right. It's a, because I don't want to get in trouble.
It's a panic. There's an anxiety and a
panic. It's a panic. It's an anxiety. Yeah. It's a, oh no, I gotta prove that I did everything I could and I did this as well as I possibly could, because if I didn't, then I'm in trouble and then I got caught.
That's a good example. That's tree of knowledge. And don't get me wrong, this is all metaphor. So like it's open to interpretation. But like that's very tree of knowledge of good and evil. Mm-hmm. I want to prove that I'm right. I want to prove, and I get like as a type 1 on the Enneagram, Kindred Spirits Enneagram podcast, I get caught in that pretty seriously in when I'm going to search for truth and justice, and like I get caught in those things too, and it's the like it's the unwillingness for me. Because I've been working on this, so it's an unwillingness for me to surrender to an unjust world.
I was gonna say almost to a fault.
Oh, definitely to a fault.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But then the same with
like I can bring in witnesses.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine is much more that I don't want to lose support. Like I don't want to lose my community. I don't want to be abandoned. And so my panic comes from a place of, oh God, like what if you align with other people that agree with you and then I'm left alone? Like it's yeah.
So the world is a dangerous place, and it's because we are dangerous people. And you know, there are certainly horrible people out there who want to, but they are few and far between. I'm talking about the normal, everyday, harmful, which is
traffic.
Yeah, well, like the deep desire to talk crap about somebody because they said, and the deep temptation to like manipulate and control, and the deep there is a lie within the church that church people are not capable of this, and the truth is that we are all completely we all absolutely have the potential.
And not to interject, but it's an addiction.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely works like an addiction.
Yeah.
Like it absolutely works. So I've been around 12 steps programs for a long time in my life.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be alcohol or drugs or like the bads.
It absolutely operates. I can tell you with authority, it operates like an addiction.
Creepy. It's creepy.
Which is kind of a nefarious.
Yes.
It almost feels like it has. This is where the idea of demons. I think I don't really believe in ghosts or demons or anything, but this is where the idea of demons come from, because it does feel like. And if you disagree with me, by all means, maintain your own. Like, feel free. But it definitely feels like it has a mind of its own. Like it feels like it's doing its own thing without your control it. Without your permission.
It's creepy.
Yeah,
it literally creeps.
And our temptation is the tree of knowledge of good. I will figure out what's going wrong here. I will fix it. Okay, now here's what the story of Christmas is really about. So,
Linus.
So sin is this harmful, dangerous force that we all have within us. And what especially traditional Old Testament theology says is that that God is over sin, and that anytime that sin enters the presence of God, God destroys it. And we have all these weird stories in Old Testament, like, they're carrying the Ark of the Covenant, it starts to fall, and somebody reaches out to touch it, and God just effing kills him. Because God is over sin, and sin cannot survive the light of God's goodness. It just cannot even survive in his presence, And God just eviscerates and destroys all sin. Now, here's the problem. If you buy into the concept of original sin, then we all have the potential for that inside of us. And that means that none of us can be in the presence of God. And this was the understanding. This is the Old Testament relationship with God. In order to get to God, you have to wipe your sin away through sacrifice and confession and just and you have to be in a specific place in a specific time. And the minute you have an impure thought, you're doomed. Like all of this. It's impossible to relate to God that way. The story of Christmas is that God so loved the world that he gave his only son. He submitted to become vulnerable to the danger of sin. Because you can't talk about the birth of Jesus without talking about the death of Jesus. Jesus comes and spends his first night humbly in a feeding trough, in a manger. He grows up to be a rabbi who is ultimately destroyed, who is killed and tortured to death under the danger of the real harm that we all have the potential to inflict on.
By his coworkers. By his peers.
Abandoned by his most trusted. All of the harm that we have that is potentially within us is demonstrated in the crucifixion story. And you can't talk about the crucifixion without also talking about the resurrection. And like that's the miracle of Christmas, that God so loved the world that when he should have been above all of this, he humbled himself to be beneath all of this and submitted himself to the worst, most dangerous parts of who we potentially are, in the hopes that we might experience with him this resurrection into a new way of being. It's essentially God saying, let me in the car, knowing that the car is going to crash. But knowing that if he's in the car with us, then we have the potential to actually be better. And that's what Christmas love is about.
To soften this sounds really funny, but it kind of reminds me of like the Cat in the Hat story. Jesus sounds like this agent of chaos. It's like God kind of sends him down and he's like
your girlfriend?
Yeah.
Shout out. I hope you're watching.
And he's like, you know what? Let me go down there and see what's going on. And then just kind of levitates through crazy people throwing stones.
I think there's something more deliberate than that. I would like to believe in a God who is big enough to know what he was getting into and chose to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that's the nature of this like unconditional, without judgment nature of love.
I can't do the flood again, so. What's number 2?
I promise not to kill everybody.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Reminder about Christmas Eve. If you liked this, please subscribe. And with no further ado, whatever. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.